Beloved soul, I speak to you from the depths of Spirit's eternal wisdom to awaken in you a remembrance long forgotten by the restless mind. Since the dawn of time, humanity has sought happiness in countless ways, in golden palaces adorned with riches, in fleeting triumphs of fame, in the tender embrace of human love, in the pleasures of the senses that promise delight but leave only emptiness in their wake. From life to life, souls have wandered the pathways of earth, searching outwardly for the joy that inwardly calls to them like a quiet, unceasing whisper. Yet despite every effort, every chase after desires fulfilled and desires lost, true contentment remains elusive, like mist slipping through the fingers of one who grasps too tightly. I, too, once walked as you do, drawn by the illusions of a world that sparkles with temporary thrills, yet cannot quench the thirst of the soul. It was only through divine revelation that I came to know this eternal truth. No earthly pleasure can ever match the joy for which you were created. The happiness of the senses is borrowed from a deeper source, a pale reflection of a bliss that belongs to your own immortal being. This world offers sweet fragrances that quickly fade, songs of delight that soon fall silent, and triumphs that crumble like sandcastles before the rising tide of time. Even the highest earthly attainments, power, wealth, love cannot grant the unshakable ecstasy for which your soul hungers. When you drink deeply from these passing pleasures, for a moment they taste sweet, but soon you are left thirstier than before. Why? Because they do not touch the essence of who you truly are. They stir the senses but leave untouched the wellspring of spirit hidden within. The soul is like a majestic eagle meant to soar above the clouds of mortal limitation, yet it is caged by attachments that chain it to the earth. You were born for boundless freedom, for divine bliss unending, yet you wander in a desert where mirages promise relief but vanish upon approach. Beloved, I tell you this not to condemn the joys of human life, for every smile and tender moment carries a glimmer of divine love, but they are glimmers only, never the sun itself. You must awaken to this truth. The joy your heart seeks is not found in anything that can be taken away by time, change, or death. True joy is eternal, self-sustaining, untouched by circumstance, immune to sorrow. It is the native air of your soul, the radiance of God shining at the core of your very being. This is why you feel restless after pleasure fades. This is why victories taste hollow, why even moments of triumph leave an echo of longing. The soul remembers something greater. It remembers the ever-new joy of spirit, the ecstasy of divine communion that no earthly delight can imitate. Until you rediscover that joy, you will continue to seek outwardly what has always been waiting within. And I have come to tell you, there is a way to unlock this eternal joy. There is a divine meditation, a sacred science passed from master to disciple, that opens the gates of inner bliss and allows the soul to soar beyond the limits of mortal happiness. When you practice it with love and surrender, you will drink from the fountain of God's joy, a joy so boundless that nothing of this world can compare. Come, beloved soul, let us journey inward together, leave behind the illusions of fleeting pleasure, and step onto the path that leads to the very source of all happiness. In the stillness of true meditation, you shall discover the treasure for which your heart has silently longed through all your lives, the infinite, unbroken joy of spirit. Beloved one, now that you have glimpsed the futility of chasing temporary pleasures, let me reveal to you the sacred truth hidden beneath the restless wanderings of human desire. You are not a seeker of joy, you are joy itself. You were not born to grovel for happiness in transient shadows. You were fashioned from the very substance of divine bliss. In the silence of eternity, long before the drama of countless earthly incarnations, your soul existed as a luminous spark in the infinite spirit, radiant with ever-new joy, untouched by sorrow or fear. The essence of God is bliss, and because you are made in His image, bliss is your true nature, changeless, indestructible, eternal. Every yearning you have ever felt, every thirst for beauty, for love, for fulfillment, has been the cry of your soul remembering its native home in spirit. The river of your consciousness has wandered far from its source, seeking to quench its thirst in little pools along the way, yet it can never be satisfied until it returns to the boundless ocean of divine joy. This is why the saints and masters have declared through the ages, "In thy presence is fullness of joy. At thy right hand are pleasures forevermore." These are not poetic metaphors. They are descriptions of a living reality, a state of being where joy does not depend on outward conditions, but springs eternally from within, like a well that never runs dry. Understand this, beloved. Every pleasure of the senses is a distant echo of this divine bliss. When you taste sweetness, it is only a faint reflection of the soul's innate ecstasy. When you fall in love, it is but a glimmer of the boundless love you share with Spirit. When you achieve success or recognition, it is only a shadow of the cosmic triumph of knowing your oneness with God. All worldly joys are borrowed from this inner source, and because they are borrowed, they must one day be returned. But the joy that meditation awakens is not borrowed, it is the original, everlasting bliss of the soul, which no power on earth or heaven can take away. This truth has been proclaimed in every great tradition. The yogis of India call it Ananda, the highest state of consciousness, where the soul is united with Spirit and experiences joy beyond the reach of words or imagination. The Christian mystics spoke of the beatific vision, where the soul beholds God face to face and is overwhelmed with divine rapture. The Buddha described nirvana as the end of suffering and the discovery of unshakable bliss. Though the names differ, the experience is the same. The soul, freed from ignorance and restlessness, awakens to its true joyous nature in union with the infinite. Beloved, you have carried this truth in your heart all along. That quiet, persistent longing for something more than life has given you is the whisper of your own soul calling you home. And this homecoming is not a distant hope, not a prize to be earned through endless striving. It is available to you now, in this very breath, if only you will turn inward and claim it. Meditation is the sacred bridge between the restless human state and the serene, blissful reality of your divine nature. When you enter deep meditation, when you still the body and calm the mind, when breath and thought are surrendered to the quiet intelligence of Spirit, something miraculous occurs. The heavy veil of ego begins to lift, and the soul remembers itself not as a frail mortal bound to fleeting pleasures and pains, but as a radiant child of God, luminous and free. In that remembrance, joy wells up like a fountain, bubbling from a depth that has no end. This joy is not an emotion, not a fleeting mood. It is the eternal song of your own being, harmonizing with the symphony of creation. So, beloved, know this and let it sink deeply into your consciousness. You were made for bliss. Every cell of your body, every fiber of your mind, every vibration of your soul carries this truth. Do not accept the crumbs of temporary pleasure when a banquet of divine ecstasy awaits you. Meditation is the key to this feast of Spirit, unlocking the gates to a joy no earthly pleasure can match. In this sacred stillness, you will not merely believe in your divine nature, you will feel it. You will know it beyond all doubt, and that knowing will transform your life forever. Beloved soul, having understood that you were made for eternal bliss, and that worldly pleasures are but faint reflections of the soul's radiant joy, you may ask, then why, when I sit in meditation, do I not feel this divine ecstasy? Why do my prayers sometimes echo into silence? Why does my heart still feel restless, untouched by the happiness the masters have promised? I tell you, my dear one, it is not because Spirit withholds himself from you, nor because divine joy is reserved for saints and prophets alone. No, the infinite longs to flood your being with his ever-new joy, even more than you long to receive it. The barrier lies not in spirit, but in the wandering mind and restless energies of the human condition. Ordinary meditation, as many attempt it, fails to reach divine joy because it only grazes the surface of consciousness. It does not dive into the silent depths where the soul meets the eternal. Consider how many approach meditation. They sit down for a few moments, close their eyes, and try to stop thinking. They may force stillness upon the body, while the mind races like a wild horse untamed. Thoughts leap from memory to desire, from worry to distraction, and after a short while, the seeker arises, discouraged, saying, I cannot meditate. I feel nothing. This is not true meditation. It is but waiting for stillness without knowing how to enter it. Real meditation is a living science, a divine art, passed down by masters who have journeyed inward and returned with the keys to the soul's palace of joy. Without these keys, without proper guidance, inner discipline, and devotion, the seeker remains stranded at the threshold, hearing faint whispers of bliss but never tasting its fullness. Just as one cannot expect to reach the summit of a sacred mountain without learning to climb, one cannot expect divine joy to awaken by sitting in passive silence. Yogananda often said that restless thoughts are powered by restless life force. As long as prana, the sacred energy flowing within you, is scattered outward through the senses, the mind will remain noisy and unable to concentrate. Ordinary meditation neglects this vital truth. People try to quiet the mind without first calming the energy currents, and thus they struggle endlessly with waves of thought. True meditation begins with harmonizing this life force, drawing it inward and upward through the astral spine, until breath slows, thoughts subside naturally, and the door to higher consciousness opens effortlessly. Another reason ordinary meditation fails is the absence of deep devotion. Some approach meditation as a mental exercise alone, seeking only relaxation or intellectual insight. But divine joy is not discovered by intellect. It is drawn by love. The masters attained cosmic bliss not through mechanical discipline, but through hearts aflame with longing for God. Without this devotional fire, meditation remains dry and shallow, lacking the magnetic pull that summons Spirit's living presence. Finally, many stop too soon. When meditation feels dull or distracted, they believe they have failed and abandon the practice. But every moment of sincere effort plants seeds in the soil of the soul. Divine joy is a flower that blooms only when the gardener tends to it patiently, watering it with breath control, concentration, and love for Spirit. Those who persist, even when progress seems slow, discover that each attempt brings them closer to the hidden fountain of bliss within. Beloved, understand this. Ordinary meditation does not reach divine joy because it is incomplete. It neglects the science of energy control, lacks the fuel of devotion, and gives up before the silent miracle has time to unfold. But there is a sacred, time-tested way taught by the great masters that leads surely to the joy of Spirit. With this divine meditation, you can calm the restless waves of thought, awaken the silent power of prana, focus your consciousness like a beam of light, and open your heart wide to the infinite until bliss rushes in like a mighty river returning to the sea. Let us now prepare ourselves to walk this path. Before we ascend to the heights of divine meditation, we must first prepare the temple of the soul, cleansing the body, calming the mind, and readying every part of our being to receive the radiant joy that awaits. Beloved one, to ascend the holy mountain of divine joy, your entire being must be prepared as a sanctuary worthy of Spirit's presence. Just as pilgrims cleanse themselves before entering a sacred shrine, so too must the body be purified, calmed, and attuned before the soul may rise effortlessly toward the heights of meditation. For though the joy of Spirit is eternal and unchanging, your ability to perceive and receive it depends upon the clarity of the vessel through which it shines. The body is not an enemy to be conquered, nor a mere burden to be neglected. It is a temple, delicately woven from divine intelligence, to house your soul during this earthly pilgrimage. When the body is filled with restlessness, toxins, or imbalance, its vibrations grow heavy, clouding the subtle channels of energy and dulling the mind's ability to enter deep stillness. But when the body is cleansed and harmonized, it becomes a luminous altar upon which the flame of Spirit may be kindled without obstruction. Begin by honoring the food you eat, for it is the fuel that shapes not only flesh and bone but the magnetic currents of life force that sustain your consciousness. Choose foods blessed with vitality: fresh fruits kissed by sunlight, wholesome grains, vegetables grown in living soil, pure water that flows freely from nature's spring. Avoid what is lifeless, overly processed, or burdened with cruelty, for such vibrations weigh down the astral channels through which divine joy seeks to rise. Eat with mindfulness, not as a hurried habit, but as a sacred act, silently offering each morsel to God, feeling His life in the sustenance you receive. Cleanse the body through conscious breath and movement. Begin your mornings with deep, rhythmic breathing that awakens every cell with fresh vitality. Let your lungs drink deeply of the air, then exhale slowly, releasing tension, toxins, and heaviness. Gentle stretches or yogic postures will make the body supple, allowing energy to flow freely along the spine, unimpeded by stiffness or stagnation. This is not exercise for vanity, but worship through movement, a way of preparing the physical temple for the inward journey of meditation. Purity also extends to the senses. The eyes, ears, and skin are doors through which energy flows. Guard them against excessive noise, harsh images, and restless environments that stir the mind into agitation. Seek instead the calming beauty of nature, the serenity of sacred music, the uplifting touch of harmonious surroundings. Every choice you make in your physical life either amplifies or diminishes the clarity with which you may touch divine joy. Above all, carry the attitude that your body belongs not to ego but to spirit. Whisper silently before each meditation, "Beloved Divine Mother, this body is thy temple. Cleanse it, calm it, and fill it with thy light, that I may know thee in the stillness of my soul." When you honor your body as spirit's dwelling place, you naturally begin to live more purely, eat more consciously, and care for your health as an act of devotion rather than compulsion. Beloved, when the body is thus purified and made light, you will find that meditation comes more easily. Thoughts grow calm, energy flows upward without resistance, and the mind becomes a clear mirror, ready to reflect the ever-new joy of spirit. Yet the body is but the outer temple. To truly enter divine meditation, the inner sanctuary, the mind, must also be stilled, cleansed of ceaseless chatter and distraction. Let us now journey inward and quiet the mind until it becomes a calm, silent lake upon which the reflection of God's bliss may shine undisturbed. Beloved child of spirit, now that you understand the importance of purifying the body as a sacred temple, let us turn to the inner sanctuary, the dwelling place of your thoughts and feelings. For even if the body is still and pure, if the mind remains a whirlwind of desires, fears, and ceaseless wanderings, the soul cannot hear the whisper of God's joy. The restlessness of thought is like a storm upon a lake. When the surface is disturbed, no reflection can be seen. Only when the waters grow calm does the light of the heavens reveal itself perfectly. The mind, beloved one, is a wondrous instrument created by the divine to serve as a bridge between spirit and matter. Yet, untamed and unguarded, it becomes a prison of illusions. Thoughts rush like wild horses in every direction, chasing memories of the past or fantasies of the future, rarely pausing in the stillness of the present moment where spirit dwells. Desires pull the mind outward through the senses, scattering energy and leaving little strength to journey inward. In such a state, you may sit in meditation for hours and touch only the outer veil of peace, never entering the radiant chamber of bliss hidden within. To quiet the mind, you must first understand that it is not conquered by force. Trying to stop thinking with sheer will is like trying to halt a river with your handset, only grows more turbulent. The path to stillness lies not in struggle but in gentle mastery of the currents that feed the river of thought. These currents are the life force energies that flow through your astral body. When they rush outward toward the senses, thoughts multiply endlessly. When they are calmed and drawn inward, the mind naturally becomes serene, like a river returning peacefully to its source. Begin each meditation by withdrawing these currents of energy through focused breath and prayer. As you inhale slowly, feel that you are gathering your scattered thoughts and drawing them upward into the spiritual eye. As you exhale, release all restlessness, imagining it dissolving into the infinite. With each breath, your mind becomes lighter, clearer, and more centered, no longer dragged by the tides of worldly distraction. Next, learn the art of detachment. Observe your thoughts as they arise, but do not identify with them. See them as passing clouds drifting across the vast sky of your consciousness. A thought may appear about duties, relationships, fears, or memories. Do not chase it, do not fight it. Simply watch it float away into the horizon of silence. In time, fewer clouds will form, and the clear sky of divine awareness will expand within you. Another powerful key is focused attention. Choose a sacred point, such as the spiritual eye, the seat of divine perception, and anchor your awareness there. Each time your mind wanders, gently bring it back, like a loving shepherd guiding a lamb back to safety. With practice, the mind learns to rest in stillness, like a bird settling into its nest after a long flight. Finally, infuse every attempt at mental stillness with devotion. Thoughts are ultimately stilled not by mechanical control but by the magnet of love. When your heart yearns for God, when every thought is surrendered as an offering of devotion, the mind willingly lays down its burdens. It grows quiet, not by compulsion, but by the overwhelming desire to feel Spirit's embrace. Beloved, When the body is purified and the mind is made calm, the temple of your being is fully prepared. In this sanctuary, divine energy can rise unobstructed, carrying you into realms of joy beyond all earthly imagination. Let us now awaken this inner energy, for it is the sacred key that unlocks the gates of bliss and leads the soul upward toward union with the infinite. Beloved pilgrim of eternity, you have now begun to make your body a shining temple and your mind a tranquil sanctuary. Yet even a cleansed temple remains only a structure unless its altar is lit, unless the sacred fire burns brightly upon it. This living flame is your inner energy, the divine current of prana that animates every breath, every heartbeat, every thought you have ever known. Without awakening and guiding this subtle force, meditation remains a quiet rest for the body and mind, but it cannot lift you into the soaring ecstasy of spirit. To unlock a joy no earthly pleasure can ever match, you must awaken this hidden power and direct it upward through the sacred pathway of the spine, where the soul meets the infinite. Understand this mystery well. Prana is not mere physical breath or oxygen. It is the divine life force, the cosmic energy that sustains all creation. When it flows outward through the senses, you are bound to the endless dramas of the material world: pleasure and pain, success and failure, birth and death. The more this energy scatters into outward pursuits, the less power remains to lift your consciousness beyond human limitation. But when prana is gathered inward, concentrated, and drawn upward through the astral spine, it reverses its outward pull and becomes the golden ladder upon which your soul ascends toward divine joy. This is why the great masters taught sacred techniques of breath and energy control, not as physical exercises, but as keys to higher states of consciousness. They discovered that the restless mind cannot be silenced by thought alone. It is stilled only when life, force itself, is calmed and guided upward. When prana rises like a current of light through the chakras, it illuminates each spiritual center, dissolving the knots of past tendencies and opening channels to divine perception. As this inner energy awakens fully, it lifts your awareness beyond body and mind into superconsciousness, where spirit's bliss can be directly felt. Sit with me now, beloved, and imagine your spine as a column of radiant light connecting earth and heaven. At its base lies dormant spiritual energy, coiled like a serpent awaiting divine awakening. With each slow, conscious breath, feel that you are drawing this energy upward, as though a golden river were rising from your foundation toward the spiritual eye between your eyebrows. Do not strain. Let the ascent be gentle, guided by devotion rather than force. As this current moves upward, visualize it passing through luminous centers: the red glow of life at the base, the orange flame of creativity, the golden fire of will at the navel, the emerald calm of the heart, the azure purity of the throat, the indigo light of divine vision at the brow end, finally merging into the thousand-petaled lotus of radiant white light at the crown. This is no mere imagination. It is a subtle awakening of your inner reality. As energy flows upward, you may feel warmth along the spine, tingling at the brow, or a lifting sensation as though gravity itself has lessened. These are signs that your prana, once trapped in the senses, has begun to return to its divine source. And as it gathers, a still joy begins to dawn within, a joy independent of outer conditions, a joy that hums quietly beneath every breath. Beloved soul, this is the hidden science of bliss. The world chases happiness in possessions, in praise, in fleeting thrills, but the masters have shown that divine joy arises only when life force is lifted upward to the higher centers of consciousness. Without this ascent, meditation may bring calmness, but rarely ecstasy. With it, the doors of the soul begin to open, revealing the boundless bliss of spirit that no earthly pleasure can equal. Let us now focus this awakened energy through concentration and devotion, for these are the wings that carry prana to its highest destination, the direct embrace of God's ever-new joy. Beloved traveler on the path of eternal freedom, now that you have felt the gentle stirring of inner energy rising through the sacred pathway of the spine, you must learn how to direct this awakened current toward its divine destination. Just as a river needs clear banks to guide it toward the ocean, so too does your prana require the guiding channels of concentration and the magnetic pull of devotion to lead it into the limitless sea of spirit. Without concentration, energy is scattered like sunlight diffused through clouds. Without devotion, it lacks the fire to ignite divine communion. But when the mind is unwavering and the heart burns with love for God, awakened energy ascends swiftly, carrying you beyond mortal limits into the radiant embrace of infinite joy. True concentration is not rigid effort nor the mechanical fixing of attention. It is the art of merging awareness into one-pointed stillness, like a calm flame unshaken by any wind. When you focus fully on the spiritual eye, holding every thought, breath, and feeling in steady communion with that single point of divine perception, you begin to dissolve the restless tendencies of the mind. Distraction loses its power because there is nowhere else for your consciousness to go. It is anchored firmly, drawn upward into the light like a magnet to steel. This is why the masters say, where your attention goes, there your energy flows. When all attention rests on spirit, all energy naturally follows, flooding the higher centers and awakening divine joy. But concentration alone is not enough. Without devotion, the practice becomes dry and mechanical, unable to pierce the veil between human effort and divine response. Devotion is the sacred fire in your heart, the longing of your soul to unite with its beloved Creator. It is a tender yet powerful yearning that transforms meditation from mere mental discipline into an intimate dialogue with God. In devotion, you are no longer a seeker striving for results. You become a child reaching out to its eternal parent, a lover calling for the divine beloved, a friend seeking reunion with the cosmic companion who has walked beside you through lifetimes unseen. Close your eyes now, beloved, and feel this yearning in your own heart. Whisper silently to Spirit, Beloved Lord, reveal thyself to me. I offer thee my breath, my thoughts, my life force, my very soul. Without thee, I am lost. With thee, I am complete. Draw me upward into thy ever-new joy. As these words flow inwardly, you may feel warmth in your chest, tears welling softly, or a sweetness that spreads through every nerve. This is devotion awakening, melting the barriers of ego and summoning the living presence of God. When concentration and devotion unite, meditation becomes a living current of prayerful awareness, flowing upward through the spine. As you gaze steadily at the spiritual eye, breath quiet and mind absorbed, the awakened energy rides the channel of concentration, while devotion magnetically pulls it towards spirit. In this holy ascent, the ego begins to dissolve. The soul, long imprisoned in body consciousness, begins to remember its true nature as infinite light and love. Joy begins to bloom like a hidden flower, opening at dawn, its fragrance spreading silently through every corner of your being. This is the threshold of divine meditation, the moment when all elements align, the body still and pure, the mind quiet and focused, inner energy awakened, and the heart burning with love for God. In this sacred state, the gates of higher consciousness swing open, and you step across the bridge from human limitation into divine bliss. Let us now journey together into this sublime realm, where meditation is no longer an effort but a rapture, and the soul begins to taste the joy that no earthly pleasure can ever match. Beloved seeker of eternal truth, now that your body has been prepared as a temple, your mind has been stilled like a calm, glassy lake, your inner energy has been awakened and drawn upward through the spine, and your heart has been set ablaze with the fire of devotion, you are ready to step into the sacred sanctuary of divine meditation. This is no longer the meditation that many know, a silent sitting with wandering thoughts and fleeting calm, but the living, breathing communion with Spirit that dissolves all barriers between you and the infinite. Sit now as I guide you, as though the Eternal One himself were preparing your seat before the altar of cosmic consciousness. Straighten your spine, for the spine is the sacred highway of divine energy. Rest your hands upon your thighs, palms upward in a gesture of offering, and gently lift your gaze, not straining, but surrendering to the spiritual eye, the luminous star of divine vision shining quietly between your eyebrows. Let your breath be still, smooth, unbroken, like a golden thread weaving through eternity. Begin with a gentle prayer whispered in the temple of your heart. Beloved Spirit, take my restless thoughts, my scattered desires, my human will, and draw me wholly into thee. I am thine. Lead me into thy light, into thy joy that no shadow can dim. As these words echo softly within, feel your entire being beginning to melt into the vast silence of Spirit's presence. With each breath, the world falls away. Sounds become distant, as though they belong to another realm. Thoughts that once clamored for attention lose their hold, fading like mist in the morning sun. Your sense of body begins to dissolve, and you feel as if you are no longer bound by flesh or weight. A vast stillness spreads through your being, not an empty stillness, but a living, radiant silence humming with the subtle vibration of cosmic life. Within this silence, you may begin to see a faint light glowing at the spiritual eye, a tiny star, perhaps blue-edged with golden rays, with a white brilliance at its core. Do not chase it. Simply let your awareness be drawn into its radiance, as though a magnet of divine love is pulling your soul upward. As your attention merges with this light, you sense that you are gazing into infinity itself, into the very doorway of God's kingdom within you. Simultaneously, listen not with your ears, but with the inner faculty of the soul for a subtle sound, the sacred Om vibration that sings at the heart of all creation. It may arise like a distant hum of bees, a rushing river, or the sound of a celestial bell echoing softly in the depths of silence. This is the soundless sound, the word of God vibrating through every atom of existence. As you attune to this holy sound, you feel yourself dissolving further, merging with the universal current of life. In this superconscious state, time ceases to exist. You are neither past nor future, you are pure presence. Breath slows to a whisper, sometimes halting completely as the body rests in a state of divine equilibrium. Energy, freed from its outward pull, rushes upward to the brain and spiritual centers, bathing your consciousness in a bliss that deepens with every moment. This is the true beginning of divine meditation. Here, joy is not imagined, not conjured by positive thought or emotional intensity. It arises naturally, irresistibly, from the very core of your being, like a long-buried fountain bursting forth into the light of day. It is a joy so profound, so expansive, that even the greatest earthly pleasures seem like shadows in comparison. The senses are silenced not by repression but by transcendence. The soul has tasted something infinitely sweeter than anything the material world can offer, and it no longer hungers outwardly. Remain in this state, beloved, as long as the infinite wills it. Let the river of divine stillness carry you deeper into the ocean of spirit. And when your heart is ready, let this stillness blossom into full divine union, where you no longer feel separate from God, where every particle of your being hums with His ever-new joy. Beloved child of the infinite, as you rest in the luminous stillness of superconscious meditation, you begin to feel a sacred transformation taking place deep within your soul. The boundaries that once separated you from God begin to dissolve like morning mist under the warming rays of the eternal sun. No longer do you perceive the divine as distant or veiled in mystery. Instead, you awaken to the profound knowing that spirit has always been your very essence, closer to you than your own breath, nearer than every thought you have ever known. In this exalted state, a boundless joy begins to pour into your consciousness, not a fleeting thrill that rises and falls like waves of the ocean, but a steady, unbroken bliss that radiates from within like a sun shining eternally in the silent sky of your being. It is a joy so vast, so complete, that every earthly pleasure pales to insignificance before it, as a tiny candle flickers and fades in the brilliance of the noonday sun. No pleasure of the senses, no accolade of the world, no triumph of human endeavor could ever match this living ecstasy of spirit. As you are immersed in this joy, you may feel as though the very cells of your body are singing silently, vibrating with divine energy. A subtle warmth may flow along the spine, and waves of sweetness may surge through the heart, rising upward to the spiritual eye like streams returning to their cosmic source. Thoughts have vanished, replaced by pure awareness. You no longer think of joy, you are joy itself. You no longer seek love, you are the very current of divine love flowing through the cosmos. This is the sacred union the masters have spoken of throughout the ages, the merging of the individual soul with the universal spirit, the ecstatic reunion of the prodigal child returning home to the embrace of the eternal Father and the infinite Mother. It is not imagination nor emotional excitement. It is a tangible, living reality, experienced not in the restless surface of the mind, but in the deepest sanctuary of divine consciousness. In this union, light fills your inner vision, sometimes a brilliant star, sometimes an infinite sun bursting across the canvas of eternity. At times, you may hear the thunderous yet soothing sound of Aum reverberating through every fiber of your being, as though the universe itself is singing to you the song of creation. At other times, you may feel a presence indescribably tender and personal, as if spirit is holding you gently, whispering silently, "Beloved child, you and I were never apart. You are my joy, and I am yours, forever and ever." As you abide in this state, an unshakable freedom dawns upon you. Fear loses all meaning. Desire for earthly possessions or fleeting pleasures simply falls away, not by force but because you have found the supreme treasure that makes all else seem like dust in the wind. You understand now, without a shred of doubt, why the saints danced in ecstasy, why mystics wept with blissful tears, why sages spoke of divine union as the only true fulfillment of life. Beloved, this is the promise of divine meditation. This is the sacred joy that awaits every soul that turns inward with discipline, devotion, and longing for spirit. It is not reserved for a chosen few, but belongs to you as your eternal birthright. Even a single glimpse of this joy changes your life forever. For once the soul has tasted the nectar of divine union, it can never again be content with the fleeting shadows of this world. Rest here as long as you can in the embrace of spirit. Absorb every drop of bliss, every ray of light, every whisper of eternal love. Know that this joy is not temporary, it is the unbroken reality of your soul. And when you return to outward awareness, you will carry with you a piece of this divine ecstasy, a silent flame burning in your heart, guiding every step of your life until you are fully and forever established in the boundless joy of God. Beloved soul, having touched even for a fleeting moment the bliss of divine union, you now understand that no earthly experience can compare to this sacred joy. Yet the world will continue to call to you, offering its promises of comfort, excitement, and fleeting happiness. To remain anchored in Spirit's ever-new joy while living in this world, you must learn to carry the vibration of divine meditation into every thought, every action, every breath of your daily life. When you rise each morning, do not rush to meet the demands of the outer world. Instead, begin your day as you ended your meditation with a quiet prayer, a few moments of deep breathing, and an inward turning of the gaze to the spiritual eye. Whisper softly to the infinite, "Beloved Spirit, guide me this day." My beloved, so many in this restless world believe they know meditation simply because they have learned to sit still for a while, close their eyes, and try to quiet their thoughts. They think that by escaping the noise of outer life, they have entered the sanctuary of spirit. But this, my dear ones, is not meditation, it is only waiting in silence, like a boat floating idly on the water without oars, never truly moving toward the divine shore. Sitting without purpose is not communion with God. It is merely physical stillness while the mind continues its ceaseless dance beneath the surface. You may sit like a statue, spine unmoving, lips sealed, yet inside the mind leaps from memory to worry, from desire to regret, never pausing long enough for the soul to breathe. This is why, after such attempts, you feel no transformation, no rising joy, no glimpse of the infinite. You feel only frustration and wonder, why does peace not come to me? Am I not meditating correctly? My beloved, you are not alone in this struggle. Countless sincere seekers mistake this for meditation because they have been told that stillness is the goal. But true meditation is far more glorious, far more alive, far more powerful than mere stillness of the body. Real meditation is the science of God union, the dynamic art of uniting your restless human consciousness with the limitless ocean of spirit. It is not passive but vibrantly active in inward pilgrimage, where breath, mind, heart, and soul are aligned like the strings of a celestial harp, vibrating only with divine music. When you meditate truly, you do not simply wait for peace, you ascend into it. You climb upward through layers of restless thought and sensory delusion until you enter the radiant temple of divine silence, where the soul meets its beloved. Imagine a traveler who wishes to see the summit of a sacred mountain. He cannot simply sit at the base and stare at the clouds, hoping one day to be carried to the top. He must walk, step by step, with effort and devotion. So it is with meditation. Sitting still is only the base of the mountain. Without conscious ascent through energy control, concentration, devotion, and surrender, you remain where you began, gazing at dreams of peace without touching its living presence. This is why I speak to you now, to awaken your understanding and lift you into the true art of meditation. You were not born to struggle endlessly with wandering thoughts, to seek relief for a restless mind. You were born to merge your soul with spirit, to taste the joy of cosmic consciousness, to know in every fiber of your being that you and the infinite are one. That is meditation, my beloved, not just silence of lips or motionlessness of limbs, but the transformation of consciousness, the blazing realization of God's eternal nearness. Come, let us journey together into the living science of meditation. I will show you how to prepare your body and mind as a temple for the divine, how to master the currents of life force that keep you bound to restlessness, how to focus your awareness like a beam of light piercing the darkness, and how to awaken devotion that will draw God's presence as surely as a magnet pulls iron. Let us go beyond mere sitting and enter the true sanctuary of spirit, where stillness blossoms into joy and silence becomes the voice of the infinite. Beloved soul, before we begin climbing the mountain of divine realization through the science of meditation, we must understand the true purpose of this sacred practice. Many seek meditation only to soothe the troubles of the mind, to find relief from stress or fleeting calm in a restless world. While meditation can indeed bring peace to your thoughts and healing to your body, this is only a faint shadow of its divine purpose. True meditation is not merely for comfort, it is for transformation. It is not an escape from life's noise, but a doorway into eternal truth, where the soul remembers its oneness with the infinite spirit. Meditation is not meant to dull your senses or quiet you into numbness. It is meant to awaken you to open the inner eye that sees beyond the illusions of matter, beyond the fleeting joys and sorrows of this earthly dream. In its highest form, meditation is the art of merging your consciousness with God's, as a drop of water becomes one with the boundless ocean. When you meditate rightly, you do not only think of God, you experience Him directly, more intimately than you can feel your own breath. You touch the presence of spirit that has always lived within you, hidden behind layers of restless thought and attachment to the senses. Scriptures of all lands speak of this divine union. In the Bible, the Lord says, "Be still and know that I am God." These words do not mean the stillness of inaction or forced quietude. They mean entering the stillness of the soul, where all distractions are transcended, where the noise of the mind is dissolved, and only divine knowing remains. In the Bhagavad Gita, the yogi is described as one who has lifted his consciousness above the turmoil of desires and mental dualities, resting in the self, united with the Supreme. This is meditation, not the absence of sound, but the presence of spirit. When you understand this purpose, your entire approach to meditation changes. You no longer sit merely to escape the storms of life or to grasp at moments of peace. You sit because your soul longs to return to its source, because a fire of divine love burns within you that cannot be quenched by worldly pursuits. Meditation becomes your lifeline to the infinite, your bridge from ignorance to wisdom, from bondage to freedom, from human limitation to cosmic consciousness. Think of a flower that has long been closed in darkness. When the sun's rays finally touch it, it opens not out of duty, but from an irresistible longing to unite with the light. So it is with the soul. When you begin to taste even a glimmer of divine presence in meditation, you will find it impossible to live without that inner communion. You will not meditate as a chore or as a discipline imposed by willpower alone. You will meditate as a lover meeting the beloved in secret silence, as a child running home into the arms of the eternal Father. This, beloved, is why we meditate, not to simply sit still or chase visions of tranquility, but to awaken the dormant divinity within us and merge it with the infinite. Every true technique, every breath drawn consciously in prayer, every moment of concentration is designed to peel away the layers of delusion that separate you from this living truth. When meditation fulfills its sacred purpose, you will no longer say, "I meditate to find God," for you will have discovered that God has always been meditating within you, patiently waiting for you to awaken and join Him in the eternal joy of spirit. Beloved child of the infinite, before the soul may soar toward the heavens of divine communion, it must first prepare its earthly vessel as a living temple for spirit. You would not step into a holy sanctuary with irreverence or clutter your altar with noise and dust. In the same way, true meditation begins with reverence for the body and the space in which you seek God. Your outer preparation is not trivial, it is a silent declaration to the infinite. Beloved Lord, I am ready to meet you. I make myself worthy of your presence. Begin with the environment. Create a sacred space in your home where worldly distractions dare not intrude, a corner blessed with simplicity and light. Let it be clean and uncluttered, infused with the vibrations of prayer and devotion. Place there symbols that awaken your soul's longing for spirit, a picture of the masters, a flower offered to God, a candle whose flame reminds you of the soul's steady light, or incense rising like whispered prayers into eternity. When you return to this place each day, the very atmosphere will embrace you with peace, for repeated devotion magnetizes it with divine energy. Now consider your body, for it, too, must be readied as a temple. Sit upright with your spine straight, not in rigid tension but as a column of light connecting earth and heaven. This is not mere posture. It is alignment with cosmic law. The spine is the altar of spirit within you, the astral highway through which divine energy must rise for you to ascend into higher consciousness. When you slouch or collapse, you obstruct this flow and signal to your own mind that meditation is unworthy of alertness. But when you sit tall, unmoving yet relaxed, you tell your whole being, I am here to worship at the inner shrine of my soul. Release bodily tension with gentle awareness. Scan your body from toes to head, offering every muscle into God's calmness. Imagine a warm, soothing light dissolving heaviness from your limbs, stilling every twitch and restless movement. The body should not be a jail of discomfort but a silent, steady vehicle for divine ascent. Yogananda said, when the body is motionless and relaxed, the restless currents of energy are stilled, and the consciousness is freed to soar upward. Let your breath become slow and even, like a tranquil sea untouched by storm. Breathe as though the divine were inhaling through you, exhaling through you, until you no longer feel separate from the very life force that sustains all creation. In this sacred stillness, you will sense that meditation is not confined to your efforts alone. The body, when properly prepared, begins to cooperate with spirit, as though remembering its true purpose. With body and environment thus sanctified, you have laid the foundation of your temple. You have turned your outer dwelling into a sacred space and your physical form into a motionless flame of devotion. Now, beloved, we must move deeper, for even with a steady posture and holy space, the inner currents of energy must be mastered. Until the winds of breath and life force are calmed and directed upward, the mind cannot be stilled, and the soul cannot fully rise into divine communion. Let us therefore journey into the forgotten art of energy control, the secret doorway to profound meditation. Beloved pilgrim on the path of light, now that your body is still and your sanctuary prepared, you must learn to master the subtle currents that flow within you. For without this sacred mastery, the mind will never fully surrender to spirit. The secret that most seekers have forgotten is this: restless thoughts are not born in the intellect alone. They are propelled by the ceaseless movement of life, force within your body. As long as your prana, the divine energy animating every cell, rushes outward toward the senses, the mind will scatter like dry leaves in a storm. But when you gather this energy, calm it, and turn it inward and upward, the winds of thought subside, and divine stillness naturally descends like a gentle rain. Yogananda taught that breath and mind are bound together as two sides of the same coin. Watch closely, and you will see that when your breath is agitated, so too is your thinking. Rapid breathing fuels restless waves of thought, while slow, harmonious breathing begins to quiet the inner tempest. Thus, every true meditation begins not only with stilling the body, but with harmonizing the breath and life force. This is the forgotten key to unlocking deep meditation. Sit once more with spine erect, shoulders relaxed, and gently close your eyes. Place your hands upon your lap or knees in a gesture of surrender. Now bring your full awareness to the breath, not to control it with force, but to observe its natural flow. Inhale gently through the nose as if drawing divine peace into your being. Hold the breath briefly in quiet gratitude. Exhale slowly, releasing all restlessness and tension. Do not strain. Let your breathing become as smooth and silent as the rising and falling of a tide. Visualize with each inhale that golden prana, like a stream of sunlight, is being drawn upward from the base of your spine to the spiritual eye between the eyebrows. With each exhale, imagine that all impurities, all distractions, all worldly vibrations flow out of you and are dissolved in the infinite. This is not imagination alone, it is a mystical science. When you guide breath and energy with devotion and calm intention, you awaken the inner pathways through which spirit can be felt. As you practice, feel the subtle current in your spine stirring to life. What was once scattered through senses and limbs now begins to rise like sap through a sacred tree. The energy that fuels restless thoughts is gathered and lifted. The senses gradually lose their grip, and the mind is freed from its outward cravings. Soon, a profound calmness fills your being, as though you are no longer breathing air, but drinking directly from the nectar of divine life. Remember these words of the masters: calmness is the cradle of power. When the breath is steady and prana is drawn upward, meditation ceases to be a struggle. It becomes effortless, buoyed by the divine force within you. Restless waves of thought dissolve into the clear, luminous waters of higher consciousness. In this state, silence is no longer an absence of sound, but the living presence of spirit flowing through every breath, every heartbeat. And yet, beloved, calming the breath and mastering energy is only the beginning. Once the currents are stilled, you must learn to concentrate this liberated awareness, to gather the rays of your scattered mind and focus them like a single beam of light piercing the darkness. Without concentration, your meditation remains shallow. With it, you draw ever closer to the doorway of true divine communion. Let us now learn this sacred art of concentration, the gateway to meditation. Beloved soul, now that you have begun to master the sacred currents of life force, you stand before another divine threshold, the discipline of concentration. Without concentration, meditation is like sunlight scattered by passing clouds, unable to warm or illuminate the depths of your being. But when your awareness is gathered into a single, unwavering stream, it becomes a mighty ray of spiritual power that pierces the veils of delusion and reveals the radiant presence of God. The untrained mind is like a restless monkey, leaping from thought to thought, unable to be still even for a moment. Many seekers try to silence this monkey by wrestling with their thoughts, pushing them away, or growing frustrated when they return. But beloved, you cannot quiet the mind by force or through willful suppression. The restless monkey must be gently tamed through the art of directed attention, taught patiently, like a child guided by loving hands toward its own higher nature. Begin by lifting your gaze softly to the point between the eyebrows, the spiritual eye, where divine intuition resides. Do not strain your eyes. Let your awareness rest there lightly, as though gazing through a window into the infinite skies of spirit. Feel that your entire mind is being drawn upward into this center, like a river flowing toward the sunlit sea. Thoughts may still arise, but do not chase them. Let them drift like clouds across the sky of your consciousness, while you remain fixed on the inner light ahead. To steady this focus, silently introduce a sacred mantra, the sound of divine remembrance. One of the most powerful techniques given by the masters is Hong Sao, meaning I am He or I am Spirit. As you inhale naturally, inwardly chant Hong. As you exhale, chant Sao. Allow the mantra to merge with your breath until it feels effortless, like the gentle beating of your heart. With each cycle, your awareness is drawn deeper inward, away from the restless chatter of thoughts and toward the still, radiant self. As you persist, you will feel a change, subtle yet profound. The mind begins to quiet itself, as though recognizing it is finally being led home. The scattered rays of your awareness converge into a single flame, unwavering and pure. Time fades. The body seems distant, like a garment you no longer wear, and you find yourself anchored in a serene, expansive consciousness that cannot be shaken by worldly noise or inner distraction. This is the gateway to meditation. Concentration is not the end, but the key that opens the door to divine communion. Without it, you may sit for hours and achieve little more than fleeting moments of calm. With it, every breath becomes a step toward union with the infinite. When you can hold your mind steadily on the spiritual eye or on the mantra of divine remembrance, you are preparing the vessel of your soul to receive the boundless ocean of spirit. Yet concentration alone is not enough. A fire must be kindled within the heart to draw God's presence, as a fragrant flower draws the morning sun. That fire is devotion, the sacred love that transforms technique into living prayer. Let us now journey into the art of devotion, where stillness becomes communion and meditation blossoms into a soul's intimate embrace with the divine. Beloved one, imagine a garden where every flower stands perfectly still, yet no fragrance rises into the air. Such is concentration without devotion, quiet on the surface, but lacking the sweet perfume that draws the beloved near. True meditation cannot flourish through mental stillness alone. It must be warmed by the sun of divine love, for only love can bridge the seeming distance between the soul and spirit. Devotion is the magnetic force that pulls God into your silent sanctuary, transforming dry focus into living communion. When you enter meditation, do not think only of disciplining your breath or controlling your mind. Bring your heart as an offering, as a child carries a simple bouquet to its mother. Speak to God inwardly, as you would speak to your closest friend or your dearest beloved, with honesty, humility, and yearning. Whisper silently, "Beloved, reveal thyself to me. I am thine, thou art mine." This is not imagination, it is the soul's natural language, long forgotten but instantly recognized when spoken again. Feel that every breath you draw is a sigh of longing for the infinite. Every still moment of concentration is a hand reaching through the darkness, searching for God's gentle grasp. If tears arise in the quiet of your meditation, do not hold them back. They are rivers flowing from the heart's hidden springs, washing away barriers of ego and pride that have long separated you from spirit. When love awakens in this way, meditation ceases to be efforted, becomes a joyful meeting with the beloved. Yogananda often said, "It is love for God that draws his response, far more than the fervor of dry techniques. Techniques prepare the mind, but devotion opens the door. Without it, meditation remains incomplete. With it, even a single breath offered with true love can lift you into divine ecstasy." The masters themselves attained cosmic consciousness, not by intellect or discipline alone, but by hearts consumed with yearning for the Divine Mother, the Eternal Father, the ever-new friend who waits within us all. As you practice, let devotion rise naturally. After calming breath and focusing your mind, place both hands over your heart, feel its silent pulse, and silently affirm, "Beloved Lord, all that I am is thine. Speak to me in the language of thy silence. Let me feel thy love guiding every thought and every breath." In that tender surrender, you will notice a shift. The inner light shines brighter, the mantra hums with more sweetness, and a subtle presence surrounds you, as if invisible arms were embracing your soul. With devotion awakened, you are ready to cross the threshold where true meditation begins, not as an effortful practice, but as a divine romance between the finite and the infinite, between your soul and the everlasting spirit. From this sacred union flows the blissful state of superconsciousness, where silence is no longer empty but luminous, alive, and filled with divine joy. Let us now step into this blessed realm together, where meditation transcends thought and becomes a direct experience of the eternal self. Beloved pilgrim of spirit, when concentration steadies the mind and devotion opens the heart, a wondrous doorway begins to reveal itself. It is not seen by the physical eyes, nor reached by mere imagination, but felt as a subtle, rising current lifting your whole being upward. This is the threshold of superconsciousness, the divine state beyond thought and ordinary silence, where the soul awakens to its own eternal nature. Many seekers confuse subconscious stillness, such as drifting into drowsiness during meditation, with spiritual depth. But true superconsciousness is the opposite of sleep. It is a luminous clarity brighter than waking life. In this sacred state, you remain fully alert, yet thoughts have ceased their endless murmuring. The body is forgotten, the breath slows or even becomes suspended, and an oceanic calm floods your awareness. You feel not a small human self seated on a cushion, but a radiant presence stretching beyond walls, beyond earth and sky, touching the very edges of infinity. As you sink deeper, you may behold the inner light shining at the spiritual eye like a radiant star or golden halo. You may hear the cosmic sound of Aum humming softly within, the primordial vibration from which all creation was born. These are not fantasies, they are glimpses of the divine blueprint sustaining the universe, eternally echoing within your own consciousness. Yogananda described this as tasting drops of the cosmic ocean, hints of the blissful reality in which the soul has always dwelled. In this superconscious state, joy arises not from any external cause, but from the very nature of spirit itself. It wells up spontaneously, bathing you in a happiness that needs no reason and knows no end. Fear melts away, desires lose their grip, and even the deepest wounds of your heart feel as though they were never real. This is the healing power of divine consciousness. It restores you to wholeness simply by revealing that you were never truly broken, never truly separate from God. Here meditation ceases to be a practice and becomes pure experience. You do not meditate on God, you merge into Him. The drop of your awareness slips effortlessly into the boundless ocean of spirit, losing nothing but the illusion of separateness, gaining instead the unshakable knowing, I and my Father are one. Beloved, do not think this superconscious state is reserved only for saints. It is your birthright as a soul made of divine light. With steadfast practice of breath control, concentration, and devotion, this sacred experience will unfold naturally, just as a flower blossoms in sunlight without force or strain. And once you have touched it, even briefly, you will never again doubt that true meditation is a living connection to the infinite, not emptiness or escape, but an awakening to the eternal reality that you are spirit. From this holy peak of superconscious joy, you must now learn to return gently to the world, carrying with you the fragrance of divine presence, allowing meditation to blossom not only in silence but in every act, every breath of your daily life. Let us now step into the practice of living meditation, where the sacred awareness gained in stillness continues to shine throughout the day. Beloved seeker of divine realization, once you have touched even a glimpse of superconscious joy, you will understand that such states are not fleeting miracles, granted only by grace. They are natural to the soul when it lives in harmony with spirit. Yet to remain in that blessed awareness, you must nurture it daily, just as a gardener tends to a sacred tree, watering it, shielding it from storms, and helping it grow toward the sun. Meditation is not a single event, but a living relationship with God that deepens every time you return to it with reverence and devotion. Begin each morning before the world claims your attention. Rise early, when dawn itself is a whisper of divine stillness upon the earth. Sit in your sacred space with spine tall, heart uplifted, and eyes gently fixed upon the inner light. Begin by stilling your breath and quieting the restless currents of energy through the practices you have learned: calm, rhythmic breathing, focusing on the mantra of divine remembrance, and drawing prana upward through the astral spine. Let your heart call silently to God with deep yearning, not for worldly comforts but for the joy of knowing Him more fully today than you did yesterday. As your meditation deepens, set aside all measure of time. Even if you have only a brief window, let it become eternal by giving yourself fully to it. End each session by resting in silent gratitude, whispering to the infinite, Beloved Spirit, guide my every thought, word, and action this day. Let me not lose sight of Thee amidst the duties of life. This morning communion will set a divine rhythm for the entire day, wrapping you in an unseen cloak of peace and guiding your steps with inner clarity. At midday, when worldly duties have pulled you outward and perhaps scattered your attention, pause even for a few moments. Close your eyes, take a single slow breath, and silently repeat your mantra. Visualize yourself seated once more before the altar of your inner temple, re-establishing the thread of divine connection. This simple act of returning to God throughout the day prevents restlessness from taking root again. It reminds you that meditation is not confined to the cushion, it is the very foundation of your life. In the evening, as the world quiets and night draws near, offer one more session of meditation. This is not merely a repetition of the morning but a deeper surrender, a review of the day in divine light. Let your final thoughts before sleep be prayers of devotion and words of gratitude, allowing the peace of meditation to carry into your dreams. Over time, this steady rhythm of morning, midday, and evening practice builds a spiritual momentum so strong that even the most stubborn habits of restlessness and delusion begin to dissolve like shadows before the rising sun. Yogananda often said that a saint is not one who never falters, but one who never gives up. Consistency in meditation, even when progress feels slow or distractions seem unending, is the truest sign of devotion. Each effort you make is a ripple in the silent ocean of spirit, and every ripple moves you closer to the boundless waves of divine bliss. With each day of sincere practice, meditation stops being something you do and becomes something you are, a living stream of communion that flows quietly beneath every thought, every breath, every action of your earthly journey. With this momentum, beloved, you are ready to transcend the illusions and misconceptions that may have hindered your practice in the past. Let us now shed light on these myths and pitfalls, so that nothing may stand between you and the radiant truth of meditation. Beloved one, even with sincere longing and disciplined effort, many seekers falter on the path of meditation. They become disheartened, believing they are incapable of deep stillness or divine communion. But understand this clearly. No soul is denied the presence of God. Only misunderstanding and subtle misconceptions create these barriers. Just as clouds hide the ever-shining sun, these myths veil the radiant truth of meditation, preventing seekers from realizing their innate spiritual power. Let us lift these veils together, dissolving illusion with light. One common myth is that meditation means the mind must instantly become free of all thoughts. Beloved, even the greatest saints had to patiently train their minds. It is natural for thoughts to arise like ripples on a pond long stirred by storms. The goal is not to violently stop thinking, but to rise above the pull of these thoughts, watching them as a witness until they lose their grip and fade into the stillness of spirit. Meditation is a process of gradual purification, not sudden perfection. Another pitfall is treating meditation as nothing more than a remedy for stress or a tool for worldly success. While meditation does bring calmness and clarity that can improve every aspect of life, if you seek only these lesser gifts, you miss the jewel hidden beneath them, the blissful realization of your eternal unity with God. True meditation is not about escaping discomfort or acquiring powers. It is about dissolving the ego's illusions and awakening to the boundless joy of spirit. Many also fall into impatience, expecting visions, ecstasies, or cosmic revelations from the very beginning. When these do not appear, they think, "I am not chosen," or "I am not progressing." Beloved soul, divine experience blossoms not through demand but through steady cultivation of devotion and surrender. The fruit of meditation ripens silently, unseen beneath the leaves of daily effort, until one day its sweetness overflows into your consciousness. Trust the process and give yourself fully to it, without chasing extraordinary signs. Others approach meditation as a purely intellectual exercise, dissecting techniques and philosophies endlessly without surrendering their hearts. But meditation is not conquered by the mind, it is a flowering of the soul. The intellect is a guide, not a master. You must ultimately let go of analysis and enter the inner sanctuary with humility and love, allowing God to take your hand and lead you beyond thought into direct experience. Lastly, beware of self-condemnation. Many judge themselves harshly for distractions, mispractices, or wandering devotion, believing they have failed God. But understand this: even the smallest effort to turn inward is blessed by the infinite. Every attempt plants a seed in the soil of your soul, and no seed is ever wasted. Divine grace does not measure success as the world does. What matters is not perfection of technique, but sincerity of heart and perseverance in longing for spirit. When these myths and pitfalls are dissolved, a profound freedom arises. You no longer meditate with anxiety or fear of failure. You meditate as a lover seeking the beloved, as a child returning home to the arms of the eternal Father. With humility, patience, and unwavering faith, every soul can pierce the veil of Maya and enter the radiant silence where true meditation blossoms. And now, beloved, with the shadows of misunderstanding lifted, you are ready for a full, guided journey into the essence of meditation, not just instruction, but a living, transformative practice. Let us enter together into this sacred session, step by step, until your heart feels the living presence of God and knows what it means to truly meditate. Beloved soul, now that we have prepared the foundation of understanding, let us walk together into a true meditation. Not a theory, not an idea, but a living experience of spirit. Sit upright wherever you are, letting your spine become a column of light, joining earth and heaven. Gently rest your hands on your lap, palms upward in a gesture of openness to receive divine grace. Close your eyes softly and allow the outside world to melt away like mist before the rising sun. Take a deep, slow breath in. Feel as though you are inhaling the peace of the infinite itself. Hold this breath for a moment, not with tension but with quiet reverence, then exhale fully, releasing every burden, every restless thought into the vast ocean of spirit. Repeat this once more, inhaling calmness, holding divine stillness, and exhaling all that keeps you bound to noise and distraction. As your breathing steadies, imagine that you are no longer drawing in mere air, but golden light, filling your entire being with a gentle radiance that soothes every muscle, every cell, every hidden worry. Now silently introduce the sacred mantra. As you inhale naturally, think the sound Hong. As you exhale, think Sao. Let this flow like a quiet hum beneath your breath. Hong, Sao, Hong, Sao. You are not forcing anything, only observing, allowing the breath to come and go as it will. With each cycle, you feel more detached from wandering thoughts. If the mind drifts, gently return to the mantra and breath, as though a loving hand guides you back to a peaceful riverbank. Lift your awareness upward now, toward the spiritual eye between your eyebrows. Visualize a radiant star shining there, brilliant yet soft, surrounded by a halo of golden light. With each breath and mantra repetition, feel yourself drawn gently toward this divine point of light. There is no strain, no struggle, only the natural magnetism of your own soul longing for its source. Thoughts fade like distant echoes. The body feels lighter, as if made of breath and light alone. Let devotion now awaken in your heart. Silently whisper to the Beloved, Lord, I come to Thee. Beloved Divine Mother, draw me into Thy arms. Reveal Thyself in this sacred stillness. Feel as if invisible hands of love and protection surround you, comforting and uplifting you. In this moment, you are not a seeker striving, you are already a child of God resting in divine presence. Remain in this stillness as long as you wish. Feel that your soul is floating in an ocean of cosmic vibration, merging with the silent music of Om. If you listen deeply not with the ears but with inner awareness, you may hear it now. A faint hum, a distant sound of rushing waters or faraway bells. Let it carry you upward, beyond thought, beyond breath, into a spacious joy that needs no reason. Beloved, this is true meditation, not merely sitting in silence, but actively journeying inward with calmness, concentration, and devotion until you taste the boundless bliss of spirit. Here, in this living silence, you and God are not separate. The drop of your individual self has slipped into the ocean of the infinite. Nothing is lacking, nothing is needed. There is only peace, love, and joy unending. Before we close this session, silently offer gratitude. Beloved Spirit, thank you for this glimpse of Thy eternal presence. Guide me that I may live always in Thy stillness and reflect Thy peace to all beings. Slowly, gently, become aware of your surroundings again, but know that the silence you touched is not left behind, it moves with you, dwelling forever in your own soul. And now, beloved, as we prepare to complete this journey, let us seal it with a final reminder that true meditation must flow into every moment of life. Beloved soul, now that you have walked through the sacred temple of true meditation and tasted its sweetness in the silence of your own being, and know that this blessing is not meant to be confined to moments on a cushion or a mat. Meditation is not something you start and stop. It is the eternal song of spirit that you can learn to hear and sing in every breath, every thought, every action of your life. When you rise from your meditation seat, do not think you are leaving the presence of God. The same divine current that carried you inward still flows around you, through you, and as you. Walk slowly for a moment after meditation, feeling that every step is taken in God's garden, that each movement is a prayer offered on the altar of existence. Speak to others gently, with the remembrance that behind every face shines the same infinite light you glimpse within. Perform your duties with calm attention, as if each task were a ritual of devotion. Washing dishes becomes a meditation on purity. Listening to a friend becomes a meditation on compassion. Even breathing becomes a silent chant of gratitude to Spirit. Carry your mantra in the background of your mind as you work and move through the day. Let Hong Sao whisper softly with every breath, or repeat silently, Beloved God, I am Thine. These quiet invocations keep your heart tethered to the divine presence, preventing worldly noise from pulling you back into restlessness. In this way, your daily life becomes an extension of meditation, a continuous communion with the divine that no circumstance can break. At night, before sleep, return again to stillness. Offer the day to Spirit with humility and love, asking only to dream and rest in divine remembrance. Soon, even your dreams will carry the fragrance of meditation. Even in sleep, You will feel the gentle hum of Aum guiding you like a celestial lullaby. This is how you truly meditate, not only in seated silence, but in every moment you live. It is a transformation of consciousness where spirit becomes your constant companion, and joy no longer depends on outward events but flows unceasingly from within. This is the promise of the Masters, that through steadfast practice, sincere devotion, and patient self-offering, you will reach a point where meditation is no longer something you do. It becomes what you are, an awakened soul shining in union with the infinite. Let this be your vow as you close this sacred journey. I will no longer merely sit in silence. I will live as meditation itself. In stillness or in action, in solitude or among crowds, I remain anchored in spirit. I am not bound by thoughts. I am guided by God. I am not seeking peace. I am peace itself, for I dwell always in the eternal presence. May the blessings of the divine, the guidance of the great masters, and the unshakable light of your own soul lead you ever deeper into this living meditation, until every breath, every heartbeat, and every moment becomes a hymn of joy, sung in the silence of God's embrace. Everything you've been taught about karma is backwards. The worst karma doesn't come from what you do to others. It comes from what you do to yourself every single day, and you call it normal life. I am about to shatter the greatest spiritual illusion of our time and show you the one thing that keeps you bound to suffering, lifetime after lifetime. My dear friend, I have been in direct communion with the Divine Mother for decades. I have seen into the soul records of thousands of seekers. I have witnessed the karmic patterns that bind humanity to endless cycles of struggle and rebirth. And in all my years of spiritual observation, nothing has shocked me more than discovering the one unconscious habit that creates more negative karma than murder, theft, or any external wrongdoing you could imagine. This habit is so subtle, so seemingly innocent, that even the most devoted saints practice it unconsciously every day. It's woven into the very fabric of what we call normal human thinking. Your parents taught it to you, your teachers reinforced it, society rewards it, and yet, this single mental pattern is the reason why your prayers seem unanswered, why your meditations feel blocked, why abundance slips through your fingers just when you think you've grasped it. By the end of this teaching, you will recognize the invisible karmic pattern that has been sabotaging your spiritual progress, relationships, health, prosperity, and inner peace for not just this lifetime, but countless lifetimes before this one. More importantly, you'll know exactly how to break free from it starting today, starting with your very next thought. Through direct communion with the divine and years of observing thousands of souls, I have seen this truth operate without exception in every human life. The wealthy businessman who loses everything overnight, the devoted mother whose children rebel against her love, the sincere spiritual seeker who practices for decades without breakthrough, they all share this one unconscious karmic mistake. Why do your spiritual practices feel ineffective despite sincere effort? You meditate daily, you read sacred scriptures, you try to live a good life, yet you still feel disconnected from the divine presence you seek. Why do you repeat the same life patterns and struggles? You promise yourself you'll react differently next time, you learn new techniques, you try harder, yet you find yourself in the same emotional cycles, the same relationship dynamics, the same financial struggles. Why do abundance, love, and peace seem to slip away just when you grasp them? Just when things seem to be going well, something happens to disturb your happiness. Just when you feel you've found your soulmate, conflict arises. Just when your finances improve, unexpected expenses appear. The answer lies in one unconscious mental habit that multiplies every other negative karma you create, like compound interest in reverse. Unlike other teachings that focus on external actions, what you should do or not do in the world, I will show you the internal mental movement that creates karma before you even act. This is the missing key that makes all other spiritual practices finally work. You could be the most ethical person in the world, never harming anyone, always helping others, living like a saint, and yet if you continue this one unconscious mental pattern, you will remain bound to suffering and limitation. You will stop unconsciously sabotaging your highest good and learn to align every thought with the divine flow of grace. You will understand why some people seem blessed in everything they touch, while others struggle despite their best efforts. You will discover the secret that transforms every challenging experience into spiritual fuel that accelerates your awakening. But first, let me tell you about three souls whose lives changed dramatically the moment they understood this truth. Their stories will help you recognize this pattern in your own life, because I guarantee you have been making the same mistake they were making, probably multiple times every day. There was once a wealthy merchant in Calcutta named Ramesh, who came to me in complete desperation. This man had built and lost 4 successful businesses over the course of 20 years. Each time, just as prosperity reached its peak, everything would crumble in ways that seemed almost supernatural in their perfect timing to cause maximum devastation. His first business, importing silk from China, collapsed when a ship carrying his entire seasonal inventory sank in a storm that weather experts said was impossible to predict. His second venture, a chain of restaurants, failed when 3 of his most trusted managers stole from him simultaneously, as if they had coordinated their betrayal. His third business, real estate development, was destroyed when government regulations changed overnight, making his project illegal just weeks before completion. By the time he started his fourth business, Ramesh was consumed with anxiety. Every night, he would lie awake imagining all the ways this venture could fail. Every morning, he would check and recheck every detail, trying to control every possible variable. When his fourth business also collapsed, this time due to a competitor spreading false rumors about his products, Ramesh came to me convinced that he was cursed, that God had abandoned him, that some enemy was using black magic against him. I observed this man for several days, watching not just his external actions, but the constant stream of thoughts running through his mind. What I discovered shocked me. Ramesh was creating massive negative karma every single day through one simple act that seemed perfectly normal, even prudent to him. Every morning, he would wake up and immediately begin a mental ritual of worry and resistance. He would look at his reflection in the mirror and think, "I hope today goes better than yesterday. Please God, don't let anything go wrong today. I can't handle another disappointment. Why do I always have such bad luck? Other people don't have to deal with these problems." Then throughout the day, whenever the smallest thing went wrong, a delayed delivery, a difficult customer, heavy rain, even a cup of spilled coffee, he would mentally explode with resistance. Here we go again. Why does this always happen to me? I knew this day would be terrible. Nothing ever works out for me. Life is so unfair. I must have done something terrible in a past life to deserve this. But the most destructive part of his mental pattern happened in the evening. Ramesh would replay every difficult moment from the day, analyzing what went wrong, criticizing his own responses, and imagining how much worse tomorrow might be. He would think, "I handled that customer badly. I should have known that supplier was unreliable. I'm making the same mistakes over and over. I'll probably lose this business too, just like all the others." This man was creating massive negative karma every single day through one simple act. He was mentally fighting with life itself. Every thought of resistance, every moment of "this shouldn't be happening," every complaint against what was already occurring, every moment of self-condemnation, these were declarations of war against the divine will that orchestrates all experiences for our highest good. The cosmic law is perfectly just. When you resist what is happening in your life, you create energetic friction that magnetizes more experiences to resist. When you fight with divine intelligence, the universe must keep presenting you with challenges until you learn to flow with them rather than oppose them. Ramesh was unconsciously creating the very failures he was trying so hard to avoid. The moment I showed him this pattern, his whole life began to transform. I taught him to start each day by saying, "Divine Mother, I trust that whatever happens today is designed for my highest good. I choose to flow with life rather than fight it. I welcome every experience as my spiritual teacher." I taught him to catch himself in moments of resistance and immediately shift his thinking. "This unexpected problem is showing me something I need to learn. This difficult person is reflecting something I need to heal in myself. This delay is protecting me from something or preparing me for something better." Most importantly, I taught him to end each day with gratitude rather than analysis. "Thank you, Divine Mother, for every experience today, especially the challenging ones that are polishing my soul like diamonds. I trust your perfect timing in all things." Within 6 months, His business was not just surviving but thriving beyond his wildest dreams. Customers were recommending him to their friends. Suppliers were offering him better deals than his competitors. Opportunities were appearing that he never could have planned or forced. But the true miracle was in his eyes. The constant worry and struggle had been replaced by a peaceful confidence that came from flowing with life rather than fighting it. His mistake reveals the first layer of this hidden karma, but there's an even deeper layer that affects not just you, but everyone around you, creating generational patterns that can trap entire families for lifetimes. I remember a devoted mother named Kamala who came to me with tears streaming down her face. Her children, despite being raised with tremendous love and care, were all struggling terribly. Her eldest son had become addicted to alcohol and gambling, losing job after job and bringing shame to the family. Her daughter suffered from deep depression and had attempted to end her own life twice. Her youngest child, barely 10 years old, was constantly sick with mysterious illnesses that doctors could not diagnose or cure. This woman was one of the most loving mothers I had ever encountered. She spent her days in prayer, asking God why her innocent children had to suffer. She had made countless sacrifices for their happiness, working extra jobs to pay for their education, giving up her own dreams to support theirs, never speaking a harsh word to any of them. She could not understand why life was being so cruel to her family when she had tried so hard to be a good mother. As I looked into her soul with spiritual sight, I saw the truth that was heartbreaking in its irony. This loving mother, in her very attempts to protect her children from pain, had developed a habit that was actually prolonging their suffering and creating negative karma for the entire family lineage. Every time one of her children faced any difficulty, Kamala would mentally take on their pain and then resist it with all the fierce love of a mother's heart. When her son drank too much, she would lie awake thinking, "This is destroying our family. I can't bear to watch him hurt himself like this. He shouldn't be doing this to us. He's such a good boy underneath. Why is life making him suffer like this? What did I do wrong as a mother?" When her daughter felt sad, Kamala would think, "My poor baby shouldn't have to go through this. Life is being so cruel to her. She's too sensitive for this harsh world. I wish I could take all her pain into myself. She deserves to be happy. Why won't God answer my prayers for her healing?" When her youngest child got sick, she would spend the night thinking, "This innocent child has done nothing wrong. Why is God punishing him? I would gladly take this illness into my own body if it would spare my baby. He shouldn't have to suffer like this. Other children don't get sick this often." What this devoted mother didn't understand was that every moment of mental resistance to her children's experiences was creating karmic interference in their spiritual growth. Her love was pure and beautiful, but her resistance to their necessary life lessons was actually preventing them from learning what their souls had come to learn, prolonging their difficulties, and creating karmic entanglement that bound the entire family in cycles of struggle. The cosmic law is this: when we fight against someone else's spiritual curriculum, we create karma that binds both them and us. When we resist another person's life experiences, we interfere with their soul's journey and take on karmic responsibility for outcomes that are not ours to control. Kamala's son needed to learn self-discipline and the consequences of his choices, but her constant mental resistance to his struggles was creating an energetic buffer that prevented him from fully experiencing the natural results of his actions. Her daughter needed to develop inner strength and learn to find her own source of happiness, but her mother's mental fighting against her sadness was actually feeding the depression by keeping the family energy stuck in patterns of victimhood and helplessness. Most surprisingly, her youngest child was unconsciously absorbing his mother's mental resistance and stress, which was manifesting as physical illness in his sensitive young body. Children are like psychic sponges. They absorb the emotional and mental patterns of their parents, often expressing these patterns through their own behavior or health. The simple shift that healed 3 generations of family patterns came when I taught Kamala a completely different way to love her children. Instead of resisting their difficulties, I showed her how to support them with what I call divine detachment, loving them unconditionally while trusting their soul's wisdom to navigate their own spiritual curriculum. I taught her to say instead, "Divine Mother, I trust that every experience comes to awaken my children to their highest good. I send them love, wisdom, and strength, but I do not resist their journey. I know that their souls are wise and that even their struggles are polishing them into the beautiful beings they are meant to become. I release my children to your perfect care and trust your timing in all things. When her son came home drunk, instead of mentally fighting against it, she would think, my son's soul is learning something important through this experience. I will love him unconditionally and be available if he needs guidance, but I will not take on his karma by resisting his choices. When her daughter felt depressed, instead of taking on the sadness as her own, Kamala would think, my daughter is a strong soul who chose this experience to develop certain spiritual qualities. I will support her with love and practical help when appropriate, but I trust her inner wisdom to find her way through this challenge. When her youngest got sick, instead of mentally fighting the illness, she would think, my child's body is teaching his soul something valuable about surrender, patience, or inner strength. I will provide loving care and seek appropriate medical help, but I trust that even this illness serves his highest good in ways I may not understand. The transformation was miraculous. Within 1 year, her son found sobriety and discovered a passion for helping other people overcome addiction. Her daughter not only healed from depression but became a counselor who helps other young women find their inner light. Her youngest child's health completely restored, and he became one of the most joyful, resilient children I have ever known. But the deepest healing happened in the family's karmic pattern itself. The cycle of struggle and worry that had been passed down through generations finally broke. Kamala's grandchildren were born into a completely different energy, one of trust, flow, and divine connection rather than resistance, worry, and fighting against life. But there's an even deeper layer that most saints miss, and this is where the most sincere spiritual seekers get trapped, sometimes for entire lifetimes of dedicated practice. I knew a dedicated meditator named Arjun, who had been practicing for 35 years. This man meditated 4 hours every day without fail, 2 hours at dawn and 2 hours at sunset. He had read every sacred scripture, studied under multiple masters, lived a completely pure life, served others selflessly, and maintained perfect ethical conduct in all his dealings. Yet he came to me in deep frustration, because despite all his efforts, he felt spiritually dry, like he was meditating to a wall of silence. He had never experienced the divine ecstasy that other devotees described. He had never felt the presence of God that the scriptures promise to sincere seekers. He had never received inner guidance or divine visions, or any of the spiritual fruits that should come from such dedicated practice. This man was torturing himself with self-doubt. He wondered if he lacked spiritual aptitude, if he had been a terrible sinner in past lives, if he was somehow defective in his capacity for divine love. He had tried different meditation techniques, different mantras, different breathing practices, even fasting and other extreme austerities, but nothing seemed to break through the spiritual dryness that plagued his practice. As I entered deep meditation with him, I immediately saw the barrier that was blocking his spiritual progress. And I tell you honestly, my heart broke with compassion for this sincere soul, because he was making the same mistake that traps so many dedicated seekers. Every time Arjun sat to meditate, he would begin with thoughts like these: I hope I can quiet my restless mind today. After 35 years, I shouldn't still be having so many wandering thoughts. I must be doing something wrong because I don't feel what other devotees describe. Maybe I'm not spiritually advanced enough. Other people seem to have such deep experiences. Why am I still struggling with such basic obstacles? Then during meditation, whenever a thought would arise, and thoughts arise naturally in every human mind, he would mentally push against it with force, thinking, I shouldn't be thinking about work right now. A true devotee wouldn't have such worldly thoughts during sacred practice. I need to concentrate harder. Why can't I control my mind like the great saints could? I'm failing at the most basic spiritual discipline. When emotions would arise during meditation, sadness, frustration, even joy, he would resist these too. I shouldn't be feeling emotional during meditation. I should be beyond these human reactions by now. True spiritual states are supposed to be peaceful and transcendent. These feelings prove that I'm not making real progress. After meditation, he would analyze his practice with harsh self-criticism. That was another terrible session. I'm wasting my time if I can't meditate properly. I should be more advanced after all these years. Other people probably achieve in months what I can't achieve in decades. Maybe I'm just not cut out for the spiritual path. This sincere man was creating enormous karmic resistance against his own natural human experience. He was fighting with his mind instead of lovingly accepting it as part of his spiritual curriculum. He was resisting his emotions instead of recognizing them as movements of divine energy in his consciousness. He was condemning his own spiritual progress instead of appreciating the tremendous dedication he had already shown. The unconscious mental movement that was blocking divine grace was this constant inner war with what was naturally occurring in his consciousness. Every moment of self-judgment, every thought of, "I shouldn't be experiencing this," every comparison with other seekers, every criticism of his own spiritual capacity, these were creating karmic barriers that prevented the very grace he was seeking from reaching him. You see, my dear friend, the Divine Mother is always pouring her love into every sincere heart. But when we resist our own human experience, we create walls that block this love from being felt. When we fight with our thoughts, we create more mental turbulence. When we judge our emotions, we create energetic knots that prevent natural flow. When we condemn our spiritual progress, we interfere with the organic unfolding of divine grace. The moment I showed Arjun this pattern, everything changed. I taught him to begin meditation not with resistance and self-judgment, but with loving acceptance of whatever his mind might do. Divine Mother, I offer you my restless mind as its island. I don't need to fix or control anything. I trust that whatever thoughts or feelings arise during this time with you are part of your perfect curriculum for my soul. I taught him to greet his wandering thoughts, not as enemies to be destroyed, but as beloved children to be lovingly acknowledged. Thank you, mind, for thinking about work. That shows how much I care about serving others. Now let me return my attention to the divine with no judgment against myself. I taught him to welcome his emotions during meditation as movements of divine energy. Thank you for this sadness. It shows the depth of my longing for you, Divine Mother. Thank you for this joy. It shows that your presence is already touching my heart. Thank you even for this frustration. It shows how much I care about spiritual progress. Most importantly, I taught him to end each meditation with gratitude rather than analysis. Thank you, Divine Mother, for this time together. Whatever I experienced was perfect for my spiritual growth right now. I trust your timing in revealing yourself to me more fully. Within just 2 weeks, after 35 years of struggle, Arjun experienced his first deep spiritual ecstasy. Within 2 months, he was regularly communing with divine presence during meditation. Within 6 months, he had become one of the most naturally blissful people I have ever known, radiating the joy and peace that can only come from direct contact with God. The key was not changing his meditation technique or practicing harder or becoming more disciplined. The key was stopping the mental resistance that had been blocking the divine grace that was always available to him. Now you're ready to understand the complete truth that can transform your entire life. The worst karma you create daily is this. Every moment you mentally fight with what is happening in your life, you declare war against the divine will and create immense negative karma that binds you to cycles of struggle and limitation. This is not about the big dramatic moments of life, the major tragedies or celebrations that everyone recognizes as significant. This is about the constant, unconscious habit of mental resistance that most souls practice from the moment they wake up until they fall asleep, day after day, year after year, lifetime after lifetime. Let me help you understand the precise mechanism of how this karmic law operates. When something happens in your life, whether it's being stuck in traffic, feeling tired, receiving criticism, experiencing physical pain, facing financial pressure, dealing with difficult people, or encountering any form of discomfort or challenge, you always have 2 fundamental choices in how you respond mentally and emotionally. You can accept what is occurring as part of the divine curriculum, designed specifically for your soul's growth and awakening. This doesn't mean you have to like what's happening or that you can't take appropriate action to improve your situation. It simply means you stop wasting vital energy fighting mentally against what is already manifested in your experience. Or you can resist what is occurring by engaging in mental arguments with reality. You can think thoughts like, "This shouldn't be happening to me. This isn't fair. I don't deserve this. Why is life so difficult? Other people don't have to deal with these problems." Or, "I should be further along by now." The moment you choose resistance, you create what I call karmic friction. You are essentially telling the infinite intelligence that orchestrates all of creation, "I know better than cosmic wisdom. This experience should not be part of my life right now. The divine plan for my soul's evolution is flawed, and I could design my spiritual curriculum better than God can. When you make this declaration, even unconsciously, even with the most innocent intentions, you lock yourself into an energetic pattern where the universe must keep presenting you with similar experiences until you learn to flow with them rather than fight them. This is not punishment or cruelty from a vindictive God. This is the perfect justice of a loving universe that will not let you graduate to your next level of spiritual development until you have mastered the lessons of your current level. This is why some people seem to have the same types of problems over and over again throughout their entire lives. It's not that life is being particularly cruel to them, or that they have worse luck than others, or that they're victims of unfair circumstances. It's that they are unconsciously creating karmic resistance that prevents them from learning the lessons that would free them from these repetitive patterns. Every moment of "this shouldn't be happening" creates an energetic signature that magnetizes more experiences that shouldn't be happening. Every thought of "why me" creates a vibrational pattern that attracts more experiences that make you wonder "why me?" Every feeling of "this isn't fair" generates karmic momentum that brings more, quote, apparently unfair situations into your life. But understand this clearly, my dear friend, because this point is crucial and often misunderstood. Acceptance is not passivity. When I teach you to accept what is happening, I absolutely do not mean you should never take action to improve your circumstances, never set boundaries with difficult people, never pursue your dreams, or never work to create positive changes in your life. Divine acceptance means you stop wasting your precious vital energy fighting mentally and emotionally with what is already manifested in your experience, and instead use that energy to respond wisely, lovingly, and skillfully to whatever life presents. When you're no longer exhausted from inner resistance, you have much more clarity, creativity, and power available for positive action. Let me give you some concrete examples from daily life so you can begin to recognize this pattern in your own experience and understand exactly how to transform resistance into spiritual fuel. When you're stuck in traffic and your old pattern is to think, "This is so frustrating. I shouldn't have to deal with this delay. Why didn't I leave earlier? This always happens when I'm already running late. Other people probably planned better than I did. This is going to ruin my whole schedule for today." Every one of these thoughts creates negative karma through resistance to what is already happening. But when you think instead, "This unexpected delay is giving me extra time to practice patience, which my soul apparently needs to develop right now. Maybe this traffic is preventing me from being somewhere I'm not supposed to be, or maybe it's preparing me for something that requires the quality of surrender I can cultivate in this moment. I choose to use this time to connect with divine presence rather than create stress through resistance." For you, you transform the exact same external experience into spiritual fuel that accelerates your awakening. When you get sick and your habitual response is to think, "I don't have time to be ill right now. My body is betraying me when I need it most. This is so inconvenient. I have too much to do to be laid up like this. I probably caught this because I don't take good enough care of myself. I should be stronger and healthier at my age." You multiply your physical suffering through mental and emotional resistance, often prolonging the illness and creating additional stress-related symptoms. But when you think instead, "My body is asking me to slow down and rest," which is apparently what my system needs right now. This illness is an opportunity to practice surrender and trust in divine timing rather than always trying to control my schedule. Maybe my soul needs this forced break to receive some insight or healing that can only come through stillness. I will take loving care of this physical temple while trusting that even this illness serves my highest good. You invite healing grace to flow more freely and often experience much faster recovery. When someone criticizes you and your automatic reaction is to think, "They have no right to speak to me this way. I don't deserve this harsh treatment. They're being completely unfair and don't understand the whole situation. I should defend myself and show them how wrong they are. Why do I attract such difficult people into my life?" You create karmic bondage with that person that ensures more challenging interactions, both with them and with others who will mirror similar energy back to you. But when you think instead, "This person is showing me something about myself that I need to see," or "They're working through their own pain and I can respond with compassion rather than defensiveness. Maybe there's a grain of truth in their criticism that can help me grow, Or maybe their harsh words are teaching me to find my sense of worth in divine love rather than human approval. I can listen with an open heart and respond from my highest self rather than from ego reaction. You free both yourself and them from negative karmic entanglement and often find that the relationship transforms in beautiful ways. Now let me show you the 3 distinct levels of self-condemnation that create the deepest and most binding karmic patterns. Understanding these levels will help you catch yourself in the act of creating unnecessary suffering and give you specific tools for breaking these unconscious habits. The first level is fighting your external circumstances. This is when you resist what is happening in your outer world, the events, situations, and conditions that you encounter in your daily life. You engage thoughts like, "This shouldn't be happening to me. Life isn't treating me fairly. I deserve better circumstances than this. Why is everything always so difficult for me? Other people seem to have it easier than I do." Or, "This situation is completely unacceptable." Every one of these thoughts creates karmic resistance because you're essentially arguing with the divine intelligence that orchestrates all experiences for your highest good. You're declaring that cosmic wisdom has made an error in allowing this particular experience to enter your life at this particular time. The second level is fighting your internal emotional and mental experiences. This is when you resist what is happening in your inner world, your feelings, thoughts, reactions, and internal responses to life. You think things like, "I shouldn't feel this way. Strong people don't get overwhelmed like this. I should be over this issue by now. These emotions are childish, and I need to grow up. I shouldn't be having such negative thoughts," or "Spiritual people don't struggle with these kinds of feelings." When you resist your natural human emotions and mental responses, you create even deeper karmic patterns because you're rejecting the very sensitivity and feeling capacity that makes spiritual growth and genuine love possible. Your emotions are not mistakes or flaws. They are movements of divine energy in your consciousness, providing valuable information about your inner state and your relationship with life. The third and deepest level is fighting your past choices and experiences. This is when you torture yourself with regret, self-condemnation, and endless mental replay of situations you wish had gone differently. You think thoughts like, "I should have known better. How could I have been so stupid? I've ruined everything with my poor decisions. I'll never forgive myself for what I did. If only I had chosen differently, my life would be so much better now." Or, "I'm paying the price for all my past mistakes." This level of resistance creates the heaviest karma because you're not just resisting one moment or one experience, you're resisting your entire spiritual journey up to this point. You're condemning the very experiences that have brought you to your current level of wisdom and compassion. You're fighting with a past that has already served its purpose in your soul's development and cannot be changed through mental struggle. Each level multiplies karmic debt in exponential ways because resistance at any level interferes with the natural flow of divine grace through your consciousness. When you fight your circumstances, you block the lessons those circumstances came to teach. When you fight your emotions, you prevent the natural healing and integration that feelings facilitate. When you fight your past, you keep yourself energetically tied to old patterns instead of being fully present to receive new blessings. But here's the divine perspective that changes everything and can instantly liberate you from all 3 levels of self-created suffering. Every single experience in your life, every moment of joy and every moment of sorrow, every success and every apparent failure, every experience of love and every experience of loss, every moment of clarity and every moment of confusion, every instant of peace and every instant of struggle, comes as spiritual curriculum designed specifically for your soul's awakening to its true divine nature. The same infinite intelligence that moves the stars in their courses, that causes the flowers to bloom in perfect timing, that orchestrates the intricate dance of ecosystems and galaxies. This same cosmic wisdom is orchestrating every detail of your personal life experience. Nothing is random, nothing is meaningless, nothing is outside the circle of divine love and purpose. When you truly understand this truth in the depths of your being, you realize that resistance to any experience, no matter how painful or confusing it might seem from your limited human perspective, is resistance to your own spiritual evolution. It's like a student arguing with the curriculum that the teacher has carefully designed for their educational development. The traffic jam came to teach you patience and surrender. The illness came to teach you self-compassion and trust in divine timing. The financial struggle came to teach you detachment from material security and creativity in problem solving. The criticism came to teach you to find your worth in divine love rather than human approval. The difficult relationship came to teach you unconditional love, healthy boundaries, or the difference between the two. Even your mistakes, especially your mistakes, are part of this divine curriculum. The choice that you regret so deeply was necessary for your soul to learn discernment, humility, or forgiveness. The relationship that ended painfully was necessary for you to develop self-love, trust your intuition, or release codependent patterns. The opportunity you missed was protecting you from something, or redirecting you towards something better aligned with your soul's purpose. There is absolutely no experience, no matter how traumatic or devastating it may seem, that falls outside the loving guidance of divine intelligence. Even experiences that involve other people's poor choices or seemingly random accidents are woven into the perfect tapestry of your soul's evolution in ways that your human mind cannot fully comprehend. This doesn't mean you should become passive or stop working to improve your life circumstances. It means you can take positive action from a place of trust and flow, rather than from resistance and struggle. When you align with the divine current rather than swimming against it, your efforts become infinitely more effective and much less exhausting. Now I will show you exactly how to break these patterns and transform your daily experience into spiritual liberation through specific practices that you can begin implementing immediately. The first practice is what I call morning divine alignment. Every morning, before you even get out of bed, before you check your phone or begin thinking about your daily responsibilities, spend at least 5 minutes consciously setting your intention to flow with whatever the day might bring. Place your hands on your heart and say these words with genuine feeling, allowing their meaning to penetrate deeply into your consciousness. Divine Mother, Divine Father, I trust completely that every experience today comes to awaken me to my highest good and deepest truth. I choose to dance with life rather than fight it. I choose to flow with your divine will rather than insist on my personal preferences. I am open to receiving the lessons, the love, and the blessings that you want to give me through every person I meet and every situation I encounter. Continue with, I release my need to control how this day unfolds, and I trust your perfect timing in all things. I know that even challenges and disappointments are gifts in disguise, polishing my soul like precious gems. Help me to see with your eyes, to love with your heart, and to respond to every experience from my highest spiritual understanding. This simple practice reprograms your subconscious mind to look for the spiritual gift in every experience rather than automatically defaulting to resistance and complaint. You're training yourself to be a spiritual scientist, approaching each moment with curiosity about what it's trying to teach you rather than immediately judging it as good or bad, convenient or inconvenient, fair or unfair. Throughout the day, cultivate moment-to-moment awareness by learning to recognize the physical sensations that accompany mental and emotional resistance. Resistance always creates tension somewhere in your body, typically in your jaw, your shoulders, your neck, your chest, your stomach, or your breathing pattern. Your body is like an early warning system that alerts you when you're beginning to fight with life instead of flowing with it. The moment you notice physical tension arising, pause whatever you're doing and take this as a signal that you're probably engaging in some form of mental resistance. Don't judge yourself for having resistance. That would just create another layer of resistance about having resistance. Simply notice with gentle awareness, oh, I'm starting to fight with something right now. Let me see what I'm resisting and how I can shift into flow. When you identify what you're resisting, use this 3-breath technique that I call the flow reset to shift from fighting to flowing with divine current. On the first deep breath, acknowledge what is happening without any judgment or attempt to change it. I notice that I'm feeling frustrated about this traffic jam, or I observe that I'm having angry thoughts about this person's behavior, or I see that I'm worried about this financial situation. On the second breath, remember the divine perspective by connecting this experience to your spiritual growth. This delay is part of my spiritual curriculum right now, designed to teach me something valuable, or this person's difficult behavior is showing me how to respond from love rather than react from ego, or this financial challenge is an opportunity to practice trust in divine abundance and discover creative solutions. On the third breath, actively open to receive the gift that this experience offers. I trust that this experience has something valuable to teach me, even if I don't immediately understand what that island. I choose to learn whatever lesson this situation offers, and to respond from my highest self rather than from fear, anger, or resistance. This simple three-breath practice transforms challenging moments into doorways to divine grace. Instead of creating negative karma through resistance, you're actually dissolving old karmic patterns and opening yourself to receive the blessings and insights that are always trying to reach you through every experience. For deeper challenges that trigger intense emotional reactions, use what I call the sacred pause technique. When you find yourself in the grip of strong resistance, anger, fear, frustration, resentment, or despair, resist the urge to immediately react or try to fix the situation. Instead, create a sacred space for yourself where you can be alone with your feelings and with divine presence. Place both hands on your heart and breathe deeply into this area, imagining that you're breathing directly into the seat of divine love within your chest. Say to yourself with infinite compassion, "Right now I'm experiencing intense resistance to what's happening in my life. This resistance is causing me great pain. I don't need to judge myself for having these feelings. They're showing me how much I care and how deeply I want life to be different." Continue breathing into your heart and say, "Divine Mother, I offer you this pain, this resistance, this struggle. I don't know how to transform these feelings on my own, but I trust that you can use even this suffering to awaken me to deeper love and wisdom. Please show me how to see this situation through your eyes of infinite compassion." Often, in the stillness of this sacred pause, you'll receive insights about the deeper gifts that your challenging experience is offering. You might understand how this difficulty is developing qualities like patience, courage, or compassion that your soul needs to cultivate. You might see how this struggle is redirecting you towards something better aligned with your true purpose. You might realize how this painful experience is helping you release attachments or expectations that were limiting your spiritual growth. The key is not to force insights or try to talk yourself out of your genuine feelings, but to create enough space and stillness that divine wisdom can naturally arise within your consciousness. For persistent patterns that seem to repeat in your life despite your best efforts to change them, practice what I call karmic pattern recognition. Set aside time each week to review your recent experiences and look for recurring themes. Ask yourself these questions with honest curiosity rather than self-judgment. What types of situations tend to trigger the strongest resistance in me? What kinds of people or behaviors consistently upset my peace? What circumstances make me feel most like a victim of unfair treatment? What aspects of my life do I find myself complaining about most frequently? Once you identify your recurring resistance patterns, you can begin to see them as your most important spiritual teachers rather than as problems to be avoided. These patterns are showing you exactly where your soul needs to develop greater mastery, where your consciousness needs to expand, where your capacity for divine love needs to deepen. Instead of trying to avoid these triggering situations, begin to welcome them as accelerated opportunities for spiritual growth. When you find yourself in a familiar pattern of resistance, say with genuine excitement, "Ah, here's my teacher again. This situation is giving me another chance to practice responding from love rather than fear, from trust rather than control, from flow rather than resistance." The most transformative practice of all is what I call evening karmic clearing. Every night before sleep, spend at least 10 minutes consciously releasing any accumulated resistance from the day and clearing any negative karma you may have created through unconscious mental habits. Begin by reviewing your day with compassionate awareness rather than harsh judgment. Bring to mind any moments when you fought mentally or emotionally with what was happening. Remember any times you criticized yourself, complained about your circumstances, judged other people harshly, or felt like a victim of unfair treatment. For each instance of resistance you remember, practice this forgiveness sequence. I forgive myself for resisting this experience. I was doing the best I could with my current level of understanding. I release all judgment against myself and choose to learn from this pattern rather than repeat it. Then actively transform each resistance into acceptance. I now choose to see this experience as part of my divine curriculum. I trust that it came to teach me something valuable about love, wisdom, patience, or inner strength. I send gratitude to this experience for being my teacher, even though I didn't recognize it as such in the moment. Finally, set a clear intention for tomorrow's conscious responses. Tomorrow I will remember that every experience comes as a gift from divine love, even if I don't immediately understand the wrapping paper. I will practice flowing with life rather than fighting it. I will look for the spiritual gift in every challenge and respond from my highest understanding rather than from unconscious reaction. This practice ensures that you don't carry karmic residue from one day into the next, and you wake up fresh and receptive to whatever divine grace wants to express through your life. Now let me share with you some of the most profound transformations I have witnessed when souls fully embrace this teaching and begin to live from flow rather than resistance. I knew a woman named Priya who had been struggling with chronic illness for 15 years. She had tried every medical treatment, every alternative therapy, every spiritual healing modality she could find. Nothing provided lasting relief, and she had begun to believe that God was punishing her for some terrible sin from a past life. When she came to me, I could see immediately that her physical symptoms were being perpetuated by her intense mental resistance to being sick. Every day, she would wake up and scan her body for symptoms, then spend hours thinking thoughts like, "I can't believe I still feel this way. I should be healthy by now after all the treatments I've tried. Why won't my body cooperate with my healing efforts? Other people recover from illnesses. Why am I different? This illness is ruining my life and preventing me from fulfilling my purpose." I taught Priya to completely change her relationship with her illness. Instead of seeing it as an enemy to be defeated, I helped her understand it as a teacher that had come to develop certain spiritual qualities in her consciousness. Instead of fighting her symptoms, she began to dialogue with her illness as if it were a wise friend. Each morning, she would place her hands on the areas of her body that were struggling and say, "Thank you, my body, for working so hard to maintain my health despite these challenges. Thank you, illness, for teaching me patience, compassion for others who suffer, and deeper trust in divine timing. I know you're here to awaken something in me that couldn't be developed any other way." Instead of constantly monitoring her symptoms with anxiety, she began to focus on the spiritual gifts her illness had brought. Deeper empathy for others, a stronger prayer life, greater appreciation for simple pleasures, and release from the ego's drive to constantly achieve and accomplish. The physical healing that followed was remarkable, but the spiritual transformation was even more beautiful. Within 6 months, not only had most of her symptoms dramatically improved, but Priya had become a beacon of peace and wisdom for everyone around her. People would seek her out for guidance because she radiated a depth of compassion and spiritual understanding that can only come from transforming great suffering into divine love. I remember another man named Vikram who had been struggling with financial poverty for most of his adult life. Despite being intelligent, hardworking, and honest, he could never seem to get ahead financially. Every time he managed to save a little money, unexpected expenses would arise. Every time he thought he had found stable employment, the company would downsize or restructure. He was trapped in a cycle of financial stress that seemed impossible to break. When I looked into his consciousness, I could see that Vikram was creating powerful karmic resistance around money and abundance. He had developed deeply ingrained thought patterns like, "Rich people must be greedy or dishonest. It's more spiritual to be poor and struggle. I don't deserve to have more than I need for basic survival. And money is the root of all evil." Simultaneously, he was constantly worried about not having enough money, thinking thoughts like, "I'll never be able to get ahead financially. Something always goes wrong just when I start to succeed. Other people are luckier than I am, and the universe doesn't want me to prosper." This created a perfect storm of karmic resistance that ensured he would continue to struggle financially until he learned to flow with abundance rather than fight it. His poverty consciousness was like a spiritual magnet that repelled the very prosperity he desperately wanted to attract. I taught Vikram to completely transform his relationship with money and abundance. Instead of seeing wealth as spiritually dangerous, he began to understand it as a form of divine energy that could be used for tremendous good when handled with wisdom and integrity. Instead of believing he didn't deserve abundance, he began to recognize himself as a beloved child of an infinitely abundant universe. Most importantly, I helped him stop resisting his current financial circumstances and start appreciating them as perfect training for developing the consciousness that could handle greater abundance responsibly. He began to say, "Thank you, Divine Mother, for these financial challenges that are teaching me creativity, resourcefulness, gratitude for simple pleasures, and trust in your provision." I know that when I have learned what these experiences came to teach, you will provide abundance that matches my expanded consciousness. He started treating every penny he had with reverence and gratitude, seeing money not as something to hoard out of fear, but as divine energy to be circulated with wisdom and love. He began blessing every bill he paid, every purchase he made, every donation he gave, saying, "Thank you for this opportunity to participate in the flow of divine abundance." The transformation was extraordinary. Within 18 months, Vikram had not only achieved financial stability but had become genuinely prosperous. More importantly, he had developed such a healthy spiritual relationship with money that he was able to help many other people heal their own poverty consciousness and create abundance in their lives. I could share hundreds of similar stories. The angry person who learned to transform their rage into compassionate strength, the lonely person who discovered that their solitude was preparing them for deeper love, the anxious person who found that their worry could be transformed into sensitive awareness and genuine care for others. The common thread in every transformation is the same. The moment a soul stops fighting with their life experience and begins to flow with it as divine curriculum, miracles begin to unfold naturally and effortlessly. But I want to address directly some of the most common misconceptions and resistances that people have to this teaching, because I know that as you've been listening, your mind may have raised certain objections or concerns. Some people worry that accepting their circumstances means they'll become passive and stop working to improve their lives. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of what divine acceptance means. True acceptance actually gives you much more power to create positive change because you're no longer wasting precious energy on mental resistance. When you stop fighting with what is already happening, you have much more clarity to see what actions would actually be helpful. When you're not emotionally reactive, you can respond to challenges from wisdom rather than from fear. When you trust that every experience serves your highest good, you can take inspired action rather than desperate action. Others worry that if they don't resist injustice and unfairness, they'll become doormats who allow others to mistreat them. But this too misses the essence of this teaching. Divine acceptance means you stop wasting energy on mental complaints about what has already happened, and instead channel that energy into wise, loving responses that serve everyone's highest good. You can set healthy boundaries without inner resistance. You can take action to correct injustices without being consumed by anger. You can protect yourself and others from harm while maintaining inner peace and trust in divine justice. In fact, actions taken from this centered state are always more effective than reactions driven by resistance and emotional turbulence. Some people fear that accepting their painful experiences means they're giving up hope for healing or improvement. But the opposite is actually true. Resistance to pain often perpetuates and intensifies suffering, while acceptance creates the inner spaciousness that allows natural healing to occur. When you stop fighting with your pain, whether physical, emotional, or circumstantial, you free up the energy that was being used in resistance, and that energy becomes available for genuine healing and transformation. Many people discover that their most profound healing occurs only after they learn to embrace their challenges with love rather than fight them with fear. The deepest resistance often comes from the ego's fear that if you stop struggling and controlling, you'll lose your identity or motivation. The ego believes that resistance and struggle are what make you strong, special, or spiritually advanced. But this is precisely the illusion that keeps souls trapped in cycles of unnecessary suffering. Your true identity is not your struggles or your resistance to life. Your true identity is the divine consciousness that can remain peaceful and loving regardless of external circumstances. Your real strength comes not from your ability to fight with life, but from your capacity to dance with life in perfect harmony. Let me share with you now the ultimate secret that emerges when you have truly mastered the art of flowing with divine will rather than resisting it. When you no longer create karmic friction through mental and emotional resistance, you begin to experience what I call spontaneous divine alignment. This means that life begins to organize itself around your highest good in ways that seem almost magical from the ordinary human perspective. The right people appear at the perfect moments. Opportunities arise that match your soul's purpose exactly. Resources become available just when you need them. Problems resolve themselves with minimal effort on your part. This is not fantasy or wishful thinking. This is the natural state of a consciousness that has learned to cooperate with divine intelligence rather than oppose it. When you stop interfering with the divine flow through resistance, that flow can express through your life with incredible grace and effectiveness. You begin to live in a state of what I call effortless effort, where your actions are still purposeful and dedicated, but they arise from inspiration rather than desperation, from trust rather than fear, from love rather than struggle. You discover that the universe is always conspiring to support your highest good, and that what you previously experienced as obstacles were actually perfect stepping stones leading you toward your soul's deepest fulfillment. This is your birthright as a divine being having a human experience. This is the life of freedom, joy, and purpose that your soul has always longed to live. And it becomes possible the moment you stop creating karmic resistance and begin to flow with the perfect intelligence that is orchestrating every detail of your existence. Before we close, let me give you one final practice that can accelerate your mastery of this teaching more rapidly than anything else I know. I call it the gratitude transformation practice, and it works by training your consciousness to immediately look for the spiritual gift in every experience, no matter how challenging. Every time something happens that triggers your old pattern of resistance, every delay, disappointment, criticism, or difficulty, immediately say to yourself, there is a gift in this experience that I cannot yet see clearly. Divine Mother, help me find the blessing that is hidden in this apparent problem. Then actively look for at least 3 possible gifts that this experience might be offering. Maybe this delay is giving you time you needed for something else. Maybe this criticism is pointing out something you can improve. Maybe this financial challenge is teaching you to be more creative or resourceful. Maybe this relationship conflict is showing you how to love yourself better or communicate more clearly. The specific gifts you identify are less important than the practice of training your mind to look for blessings rather than problems, opportunities rather than obstacles, spiritual curriculum rather than random suffering. As you develop this mental habit, you'll discover that life becomes exponentially more joyful, meaningful, and abundant. Challenges still arise, but they no longer disturb your inner peace because you immediately recognize them as friends in disguise. Teachers wearing costumes that initially seem frightening, but who have come to offer you priceless spiritual treasures. Dear friend, you now understand the greatest secret that most souls take many lifetimes to discover. Every moment you resist life, you create karma that binds you to suffering and delays your spiritual awakening. But every moment you flow with divine will, even when you don't understand it, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it challenges every preference your personality has, you dissolve lifetimes of karmic debt and open yourself to receive infinite grace, love, and divine support. The choice is always yours, in every single moment of every single day. Will you continue to exhaust yourself fighting with the divine intelligence that is constantly working to awaken you to your true nature? Or will you surrender to the perfect curriculum that has been designed specifically for your soul's complete liberation? This is not just a philosophy to think about or a teaching to admire intellectually. This is a practical, moment-by-moment spiritual discipline that can transform your entire life experience. Every time you choose flow over resistance, acceptance over fighting, trust over control, you are literally rewiring your consciousness for greater happiness, deeper peace, and more authentic spiritual power. From this day forward, I invite you to see every experience, no matter how mundane or dramatic, pleasant or challenging, as a sacred messenger bringing you exactly what your soul needs for its next stage of awakening. I invite you to greet each moment with curiosity rather than judgment, with appreciation rather than complaint, with trust rather than fear. You are not a victim of circumstances that are beyond your control. You are not at the mercy of other people's choices or random events that seem to have no purpose. You are not condemned to repeat the same painful patterns for the rest of your life, or to struggle endlessly against forces that seem stronger than you are. You are a divine child of infinite intelligence and unconditional love, temporarily wearing a human form to learn the lessons that will reveal your true spiritual nature. You are a magnificent soul who has come to this earth plane to transform apparent suffering into wisdom, fear into love, separation into unity, and resistance into the most beautiful surrender that opens you to experience your oneness with all of life. Every challenge you face is polishing you like a diamond. Every person who triggers you is reflecting something you need to heal or integrate. Every disappointment is redirecting you towards something better aligned with your soul's purpose. Every moment of resistance is an opportunity to choose flow instead. Every experience of any kind is a gift of divine love, wrapped in exactly the packaging that will help you grow into the radiant, liberated, joyful being you were always meant to be. Live like the God you truly are. Flow like the divine river you have always been. Trust like the beloved child of infinite love that you are and will always be. And watch in amazement as your entire world transforms into a reflection of the heaven that has always lived within your own precious heart. If this truth has touched your soul and awakened something deep within you that recognizes its own divine nature, please subscribe to this channel to receive more teachings that can completely transform your life, from struggle to flow, from resistance to grace, from unconscious suffering to conscious joy. Like this video if you're ready to commit to breaking the pattern of mental resistance that has been creating unnecessary karma in your life. Your single click is actually a spiritual commitment to yourself and to the divine that you're ready to live from flow rather than fight, from trust rather than control, from love rather than fear. And please, I encourage you from my heart to comment below and share how you're beginning to apply this teaching in your own daily experience. Share what patterns of resistance you're recognizing in yourself. Share what gifts you're discovering in experiences that you previously saw as problems. Share what transformations are beginning to unfold as you practice flowing with life rather than fighting it. Your sharing is not just helpful to you. It creates a field of spiritual support that helps every other soul who reads your words. When you courageously share your spiritual journey, you give permission to others to be honest about their own struggles and breakthroughs. You become part of a divine community of souls who are committed to awakening together, supporting each other's highest good, and creating more love and consciousness on this beautiful earth. Remember always, precious soul, you are loved beyond anything your human mind can comprehend. You are guided more perfectly than you could ever plan for yourself. You are supported by the infinite power that moves galaxies and blooms flowers and beats your heart without your conscious effort. You are never alone, never abandoned, never separate from the divine love that is the very essence of your being. Trust this love, flow with this guidance, surrender to this perfect support, and live every day as the celebration of divine consciousness that your life was always meant to be.